Hello Mr. A. Excuse me. Just a quick video. Nothing really to see today, so the screen's black, you can just listen. Obviously I'm just waiting for Yellen to speak so we can get some action. I guess first thing I want to say is if the volatility remains very low like this, I'll have to change the strategy a little bit and basically trade for straight out rebate. Obviously won't make as much, but you probably won't have many days where we don't make anything. It's not a strategy I do out of preference, but if there's no break and she doesn't want to raise, we'll get something today for sure. But if the market just keeps grinding higher and higher, the VIX is going to keep grinding lower. Daily take's going to be lower, and I will have to take a much more aggressive strategy and basically go for 1 or 2 ticks per trade, but multiple trades, and basically earn through the rebate. There's a million ways to make $1 million, and this is just another way. But if she does raise, and she will raise soon, before September, well, hopefully it'll be in June, the VIX will pop and we'll make some money. That's that. Just wanted to discuss obviously the future as well with the plateauing of the earnings and the next couple of years is the way I see them. Obviously we're both expecting at some point a market breakdown of the S&P and the markets in general at some point, at least in some kind of small scale. Even a pop of 20 points in the VIX would be incredible. So that's highly likely to happen. So over the next couple of years I expect that we'll have 1 or 2 pops, which will be great, whether they 60 points or 20 points or 30 points, I don't know. And once they go up, we ride them down. It's always highly volatile, so it's good both ways. So if I had to say in the next 2 years, we probably make a very large amount of money over just a few trades. Also, obviously, we don't have any liquidity problems at the moment, and I only really foresee stuff happening once we kind of get to the 20 million. Maybe a little bit higher, but somewhere around that mark, the yields will fall incrementally. So from, like, say, let's just to call it simple, I know you're not making this kind of money at the moment, but say we're doing 1% a day, at 20 million I might expect to make like 0.9, and at 25.8, at 30.7, and so on until it gets quite low. At the same time though, I am working on other strategies all the time. I want to diversify anyway, to make money in other directions or in other strategies, so there's more consistent money and it's not all relying on one horse. And I have many strategies that I've made, but I need to be very sure of it, because there's so much money at play, that it's going to be reliant and consistent, and even if it doesn't make as much as the VIX, it runs on the side as well. So I'm working on something at the moment, like I said, it's showing a tremendous amount of promise, and usually when things work quite quickly and you don't have to tweak them and stuff, you don't have to do too many changes to the overall strategy to make it work over many time periods, and when you backtest it you're not curve fitting, it just works. It's usually a really good sign. So I'm running a high frequency strategy at the moment. Ran into some problems on the demo obviously with IG today actually, because we made like 22,000 requests, and they blocked us. So that was pre-market. Obviously it's when you try it out, because you can't be blocked during market hours, because that's kind of a disaster, because it takes a little while for them to unblock you when you promise not to DDoS them again. So that's showing a lot of promise. and that would make a very consistent amount of money because I can forecast basically how many trades we'll do in a day. Obviously it'll go up and down, but on average, say we do 500 trades a day, I can then say, okay, we'll make like $5,000 a day, and just in rebate, very consistent money. Times that by 250 days a year, because it's totally automated. I guess that's, I don't know, 1.25 million off the top of my head, something close to that. And that's just a straight up rebate. So I guess if I have to sum this video up, it's obviously the VIX is good. We'll continue to grind away money, maybe a little inconsistently if the volatility remains low. If nothing happens today, well, we'll make money today, that's for sure. But if she doesn't raise today, next week, it's Memorial Week as well, so it's going to be very quiet. But say come Tuesday, if the VIX isn't coming back up, we'll have to go really to almost a rebate only strategy, just while we wait for the volatility to pick up. So we're looking for zero profit really, or one tick, and that works. I've done it before, and it's a little easier, I guess, but it just doesn't pay that well. So, but if we're making 1 or 2 ticks a day equivalent, why not? But I don't want to mix up what I'm doing, trying to actually play for 3 or 4 or 10 ticks a day when we don't need to just do rebate only, because it's a different animal entirely. So that's Tuesday's plan. And again, to summarize, over the next couple of years, we'll have a few big days. We'll continue grinding the VIX, and over the next 6 months, I guess we'll have at least one new strategy come to fruition, and then the 6 months after that, another strategy comes to fruition. It's very hard to predict how much they'll pay, but it's all gearing up for when we start plateauing at like around the 20 to 25 million mark, and the yields start to drop quite quickly. So I think it's going to be a good run up to that point, and I have to really get on and keep working my strategies until then, because once it gets to 20 million, and it's easy to make money with relatively lower amounts of money. It's much more difficult to make money when you have large amounts of money. So I have the characteristic trades I like mean reversing trades. I like trades that you can hedge. I like trades where you can make large amounts of money with small amounts of movement, with very low amounts of risk. Don't we all? I think as well as I like to have the little and often approach, which leads you to the large amounts of money of the small amounts of movement. Because if it's little and often, the risk is always extremely low. No home runs, and that's why we're trialing this HFT strategy. It's really not characteristically HFT that make 100,000 trades a day. This is more like 1,000, but I mean, you couldn't do it manually. It's just too much. You've got to manage them as well. So it looks hopeful, but what's the probability of it coming to fruition in the next 3 months? I don't know, maybe like 30-40%, because at some point we may discover some problem while we're testing it, and I guess that's the point of testing. But really, to make a summary, it's the VIX will continue to go. We'll have a few home runs, or at least one, I'm sure of it, and I'll continue to find new strategies. So to mitigate some of the plateauing later on, like I said on Telegram last night, I really think that I can do 100 million in the next 3 to 4 years, and I think I'd rather go for that kind of number. And if you want to cash out at that point, no, because you don't see any point in having any more money, because there probably won't be. Then no harm done. And I wasn't misunderstanding you yesterday. I know you don't want to cash out now, and you want to cash out some of your other stuff, but I was saying, of course, at that point in 2 or 3 years, when I'm saying, okay, we've got to 50, I want to keep going, you might want to say, well, I'm kind of done. or done to some degree. So it's that's my plan for now. Everything seems to be working. It's just, I guess, going to my plan, it's a little slow because of volatility at the moment. But I think on average, if I average it out, probably is close to 1% a day, maybe a little bit lower. It's just when volatility is like this, it's horrible. But I think after the first raise, the first announcement of the raise, you're going to be banging out 1 and 2% every single day, and that'll make up for the slow days. So that's my plan for the future, which isn't really that exciting. There's no grand things here. It's just more of the same, and bigger amounts of money with more trades, but still not changing the fundamental ethos of little and often. And that's really why I want to diversify, because then I can make the little even more little and lower the risk even more. As I said to you before, my two philosophies are PPC, protect precious capital, and always reducing risk, ARR. Those are the two philosophies I live by. So I'm always trying to make the trade smaller, always thinking about stuff that I can do. Because, for example, if I had 10 strategies equivalent of the VIX, then instead of taking 1% risk on a trade, I'd take 0.1% risk on each trade, which is obviously much better. And so that's what I'm striving for. And finding the new strategies is fun. It's frustrating and disappointing when they don't work, but I have a very high degree of confidence that we will get where we want to go, and we'll achieve it in the kind of time frames that we want to achieve it. Of course, I do have a small amount of anxiety when it comes to around the $25 million point, or pound point. How are we going to mitigate the plateauing, and how severe is it going to be? I think it's probably going to be like 0.1% every few million, every 2.5 to 5 million, and it's going to the curve will flatten until it's never going to go flat, but it may go down to, like, say, 0.25%, and that last stretch might take a while. I think it'll probably be the slowest point, but if I have a bunch of other strategies grinding out 0.1% a day, and I have by that time 4 or 5 of them, plus maybe if at the, say, 35 million pound point, I'm at like 0.3, and I have 3 or 4 other things grinding out 0.1, we're not that far off where we are now. So that's kind of the plan. It's not, as I said, it's not a blow your head off plan. It's just more bricks building the house, and as the one bricklayer gets tired, we hire new bricklayers to take his place. So I guess that's it. I'm going to wait for the Yellen thing in about hour and a half or so, and I'll let you know how I get on just before the close. I got Zara this weekend, so I won't be around much straight after the close. I'll just tell you how we did and call it a day. But that's it for now. Thanks, eh?